One of the biggest myths that keeps getting passed around is the idea that women only care about looks, money, or status. But let me stop you right there, because that's not the whole truth. Let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered why some men, who may not even be the most physically attractive or the richest in the room, still have women gravitating toward them with ease? What is it that they know? What do they understand that others miss? It often comes down to one powerful thing: emotional intelligence. See, a man who knows how to manage his emotions and connect with the emotions of others becomes magnetic without even trying. Women are naturally intuitive and emotionally attuned. They sense the energy you bring into a room. If you carry yourself with calmness, self-awareness, and emotional control, you become someone they feel safe with. And trust me, safety, emotional safety, is far more attractive than just six-pack abs or a flashy car. Think about it. When a woman speaks, she's not always looking for a solution. Sometimes she just wants to be heard. But a man who lacks emotional intelligence jumps straight to trying to fix things or dismisses her feelings entirely. That kind of reaction creates distance. But a man who listens, really listens, validates her experience, acknowledges her emotions without judgment, and knows when to speak and when to stay silent, that's the kind of presence that melts walls. That's the kind of man she remembers. And emotional intelligence isn't about being soft or overly sensitive, no. It's about being in control of your reactions. It's knowing that your power lies not in how loud you speak, but in how deeply you understand. When things go wrong, when tempers rise, when life throws a curveball, how do you respond? Do you explode, blame others, retreat? Or do you remain centered, reflective, and in charge of yourself? The truth is, a man who knows how to master his emotions builds trust. And where there is trust, love can thrive. Women watch how you treat not only them, but also yourself. If you lack self-respect, if you let your emotions rule you, if you're constantly reactive, she'll notice. But if you are consistent, self-aware, and emotionally grounded, she won't just notice, she'll feel it, and she'll feel pulled toward it. Emotional intelligence tells her you are a man she can rely on, a man who won't crumble under pressure, a man who doesn't get shaken by every little storm. And believe me, in a world full of chaos, a steady heart is rare and deeply attractive. So if you want to be the kind of man women are drawn to, don't just build muscles, build emotional strength. Be the calm in the storm. That's what truly sets you apart. Let me ask you something that might hit a little deep. Have you ever looked in the mirror and asked yourself, what am I doing with my life? Not in a panicked way, but in a real, reflective way. Because if you haven't, you're missing one of the most attractive qualities a man can ever develop: purpose. Now hear me out. There's something incredibly powerful about a man who knows where he's going. Women are drawn to that kind of energy. It's not about having all the answers or being at the top of your game already. No, it's about having direction. It's about waking up every day with a reason to move forward, a fire in your belly, even if the world doesn't see it yet. That kind of drive speaks volumes. See, when a man walks into a room with purpose, it shows. He doesn't need to announce it. You can tell by how he carries himself, his posture, his presence, his focus. He isn't easily distracted by every temptation, every trend, or every opinion. And women, they notice that, because purpose signals leadership. It signals stability, and deep down, every woman wants to know that the man she's with has vision, not just for himself, but for the life they could build together. The truth is, a man without direction often feels lost, and when you're lost, it shows. You become reactive instead of intentional. You settle for things that don't feed your spirit, and worse, you become inconsistent not just with your goals, but in how you show up in relationships. That inconsistency, it creates uncertainty, and uncertainty kills attraction. But when a man knows what he's working toward, he becomes different. His energy shifts, his focus sharpens, and women are drawn to that kind of man, not because of what he has, but because of what he represents. He becomes the man who inspires her, who leads by example, who doesn't just talk, but walks in alignment with his values. You see, it's not about chasing women, it's about chasing your purpose. Because when you chase your purpose, the right women will notice. They'll respect you. They'll be curious about you. They'll want to support and grow with you, not because you begged for their attention, but because your presence speaks for itself. You don't need to be rich. You don't need to be perfect. But you do need to be building something. A man with direction doesn't just take up space, he creates it. And in that space, women feel something they rarely find: inspiration, clarity, and the quiet strength of a man who knows who he is. So if you want to be the kind of man women can't ignore, don't just focus on impressing them. Focus on becoming the man you were meant to be. That's the kind of man who doesn't chase approval, he attracts it. Can I be honest with you for a moment? There's a reason why some men walk into a room and instantly turn heads, even before saying a word. And it's not always because of what they're wearing or how they look. It's something deeper, something quiet yet impossible to ignore. That thing is confidence. But not the loud, showy, look at me kind of confidence. I'm talking about the kind that's rooted in self-belief, the kind that doesn't need to be announced. It's simply felt. You see, there's a big difference between confidence and arrogance, and women can sense it instantly. Arrogance tries to prove something. It's loud, it's performative, and often rooted in insecurity. But true confidence, it's calm, it's steady. It doesn't rush to impress because it already knows its worth. Women are attracted to men who are sure of themselves, not because they shout it, but because they live it. They walk into a space and their energy says, I know who I am. They don't need approval, but they're not afraid of connection either. That balance is incredibly powerful. And confidence isn't just about how you carry yourself in public. It shows up in the small things. How you speak about yourself, how you handle rejection, how you treat others when no one's watching. A confident man doesn't shrink himself to please others, and he doesn't puff up his ego to feel important. He's grounded, he's secure, and that security makes the people around him feel safe and respected. Now, let me tell you something important. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. You build it through keeping promises to yourself, through doing hard things, pushing your limits, learning from failure. And the more you build it, the more it becomes a natural part of how you show up in the world. But remember, confidence without humility becomes arrogance. And that's where a lot of men go wrong. They think being bold means being loud. They confuse control with dominance. But a woman doesn't want to be dominated. She wants to be seen. She wants a man who is strong enough to lead, but humble enough to listen. A man who stands tall without stepping on anyone else. So if you want to be the kind of man women are naturally drawn to, don't try to be the loudest in the room. Be the most self-assured. Let your confidence come from how deeply you know yourself. Not from what you own, not from what you post online, but from how you show up when no one's watching. Confidence is quiet. It doesn't need to demand attention. It earns it. And when it's real, when it's paired with humility, there's nothing more attractive. Let me ask you a question that most men never stop to think about. Do you actually understand women, or are you just trying to impress them? Because there's a big difference. And if you don't get this right, you'll keep running into the same frustrating patterns over and over again. See, a lot of men go into relationships like they're solving a puzzle, trying to figure out what to say, how to act, what to buy, just to get her attention. But the men who truly stand out are the ones who take the time to understand what women actually value. Not what they post online, not what social media trends suggest, but what genuinely matters at the core. And here's the truth most people won't tell you. Women are not complicated. They're just different. They think, feel, and respond in ways that are rooted in emotion, connection, and intuition. When a man takes the time to understand how women think, how they communicate, and what makes them feel secure, he unlocks a level of connection that most men never even get close to. For example, when a woman brings up something that's bothering her, she's not always looking for a solution. She's looking for presence, for understanding, for someone who listens, not just hears words, but pays attention to the emotion behind them. A man who understands this doesn't try to fix everything. He leans in, he listens with empathy. And that simple act, it builds trust faster than any grand gesture ever could. Understanding female psychology means recognizing that women value consistency, not perfection. They want to feel emotionally safe, respected, and seen. When you understand this, you stop trying to game your way into someone's heart. You build connection through authenticity, and women feel that difference immediately. You'd be surprised how attractive it is when a man knows how to read energy. When he senses a shift in mood and checks in instead of brushing it off. When he notices the small things, like when she's tired but trying to push through, or when she needs space even if she doesn't say it out loud. That awareness, that's emotional intelligence in action, and it makes a woman feel deeply understood. This kind of understanding doesn't make you weak, it makes you powerful. Because once you understand a woman beyond the surface, you connect with her in a way that makes her feel safe to be herself. And when a woman feels safe, she opens up, she trusts, she connects. And that's when true attraction begins, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. So if you really want to stand out, don't just learn what to do around women, learn to understand who they are. Because when a woman feels that you get her, she won't want to let that go. Let me tell you something that might challenge what you've been taught. It's not just what you say that makes a woman feel close to you, it's how you say it, and even more importantly, how you listen. A lot of men believe that attraction is built only through physical presence or doing big things, but one of the most powerful tools you'll ever have in a relationship is your ability to communicate. And I don't just mean talking, I mean real, intentional, heart-level communication. You can have everything else, looks, ambition, charm, but if you can't connect through your words and your presence, you'll keep running into walls. Why? Because communication is where trust is built. It's where intimacy is born. It's where a woman decides whether you're just another conversation or someone she can build something real with. A man who can hold a genuine conversation stands out in today's world of distractions. He's not glued to his phone, he makes eye contact, he asks questions that go beyond the surface. He actually listens, not with the intent to reply, but with the intent to understand. That kind of presence creates emotional safety, and emotional safety is what opens the door to true attraction. And don't think you have to be some poetic speaker or an expert in deep topics. That's not what women are looking for. What they want is realness, clarity, honesty, the ability to express what you think and feel without playing games. When you can communicate with both confidence and vulnerability, you show emotional maturity. You show strength, not the kind that shouts, but the kind that listens without defensiveness and speaks with intention. On the flip side, when a man shuts down, avoids serious conversations, or brushes things off with humor or silence, it creates confusion. And confusion breeds insecurity. A woman starts to wonder, is he hiding something? Does he even care? Can I trust him with my heart? And those silent questions slowly create emotional distance, even if everything else seems fine on the surface. But when you open your mouth and speak with authenticity, when you choose to engage rather than escape, something powerful happens. You make her feel seen, you make her feel heard, you make her feel like her voice matters. And when a woman feels that, she doesn't just hear your words, she feels them. So if you really want to be the kind of man women are drawn to, stop rehearsing clever lines and start practicing presence. Ask meaningful questions. Speak truthfully, and most importantly, learn to listen, not just with your ears, but with your heart. Because in a world full of noise, a man who can truly communicate is unforgettable. Let me ask you something that might make you uncomfortable. When no one's watching, who are you really? Not who you say you are, not who you pretend to be when you're trying to impress her, but who you are when it's just you, your habits and your thoughts. Because here's the truth. Women are drawn to men who are in control of themselves. men who have mastered their impulses, men who live with intention, not just reaction. We live in a world that rewards instant gratification. Everything is fast, quick messages, quick answers, quick pleasure. But a man who can delay gratification, who can say no when it's easier to say yes, who can hold himself to a higher standard when no one is clapping for him, that's a rare kind of strength. That's self-mastery. And that is incredibly attractive. Self-discipline isn't about being strict or robotic. It's about having a deeper commitment to your growth. It's about waking up and choosing what's right over what's easy. When a man is disciplined, he doesn't need to chase women. He becomes the kind of man women want to chase. Why? Because he values his time. He values his energy. He respects his own peace. Women can feel this kind of energy. They can sense when a man is grounded, when he has structure in his life. He doesn't drift through the day. He doesn't give in to every distraction. He doesn't let emotions control his actions. And that kind of control, it builds trust. Because if you can lead yourself, she knows you can handle more than just yourself. On the other hand, when a man is all over the place, unfocused, inconsistent, always needing external motivation, he becomes unpredictable, and unpredictable doesn't feel safe. You might think it's exciting, but over time it wears people down. A woman wants to know that you're stable, not boring, stable, that you're strong enough to be consistent, to keep your word, to show up even when it's hard. And here's what a lot of men overlook. Self-mastery is attractive because it shows you can handle pressure. Life is going to test you. Relationships will test you. Your ability to stay centered, to not spiral when things get tough, to keep your emotions in check. That's what tells her this man can lead, not just himself, but a future, a vision, a life built together. So when you're working on yourself, when you're practicing discipline, not drinking just to fit in, not entertaining every woman who gives you attention, not reacting to every little conflict, that's not weakness. That's power. Quiet power. And quiet power is irresistible. Because at the end of the day, a man who can master himself doesn't need to prove anything. His presence proves everything.